Once upon a time in Abriba, before the white man's bell rang through the forests and before names were written in books, the land already knew fear. Not the fear of hunger, not the fear of war, but the fear of angering what could not be seen. Abriba was already old before stories learned how to speak. The red earth remembered footsteps, tears, blood and laughter. Tall palm trees stood like silent witnesses, and the forests surrounding the town were thick with secrets whispered by ancestors long gone. In Abriba, nothing happened without meaning, and nothing died without consequence. The people believed that life moved in three circles: the living, the ancestors, and the gods. When balance existed among the three, the land prospered. When balance broke, disaster followed. That was why Abriba feared offending the unseen more than hunger, more than war, more than death itself. At the center of this balance stood the king. His name was Ezenana Okurie. He was not born into royalty, he was chosen. As a young man, Nana had proven himself during a bitter boundary war that threatened to tear Abriba apart. While other warriors fought with rage, he fought with patience. While others killed recklessly, he spared when mercy served power better. When the old king died without a strong heir, the elders consulted the oracle. The oracle spoke only one name: Nana. From that day, his life stopped belonging to him. For more than 30 years, Ezenana ruled Abriba with firm hands and clear eyes. Trade routes passed safely through the town. Markets flourished. Palm oil and kola nuts flowed freely. Neighboring villages paid respect. Children slept without fear of raids or sudden war. Abriba prospered, and the people praised both their king and their gods. But long peace has a way of breeding pride. Ezenana trusted the gods deeply, but more than that, he trusted the men who claimed to speak for them. Among those men was Dibia Aguokwo, the chief priest of Abriba. Aguokwo had served the shrine since his youth. His voice carried authority. His words shaped decisions. His rituals decided life and death. Yet inside Aguokwo lived fear. Times were changing slowly. Younger men began to question old customs. Some whispered that the gods were silent. Others wondered why sacrifices were needed when suffering already filled the land. Aguokwo felt his influence slipping. Without fear of the gods, who would fear him? Then one quiet night, without warning or sickness, the king died. Ezenana ate his evening meal, spoke briefly with his youngest wife, Queen Obianuju, and lay down to sleep. Before dawn, his breath stopped. When the palace attendants discovered his body, a deep silence fell. In Abriba, the death of a king was not announced immediately. The land had to be prepared. The gods had to be consulted. For 3 days, the palace closed itself off. Markets were shut under the excuse of cleansing rituals. Drums fell silent. The town held its breath. On the third night, Dibia Aguokwo entered the sacred grove alone. When he returned at dawn, his body shook as though something unseen still held him. He summoned the elders, the warriors, and the council. His face was pale. His voice trembled. The gods are angry. The king's spirit is trapped between worlds. The land has grown proud. The gods demand payment. The elders leaned closer. 7 human heads must be offered before Ezenana can be buried. The heir died. 7 lives. Some elders protested quietly. Mazi Ibenwachuku, the oldest man in Abriba, shook his head slowly and said, "This demand is heavy, very heavy." But fear does not argue. Fear commands. Mazi Okechukwu Nduka, the war leader, stood firm. "If we disobey the gods," he said, "Abriba will suffer. Are we ready to risk the entire town?" No one answered. Fear won. The sacrifices were done quietly. No announcements, no public rituals. The first victims were strangers, travelers who slept by the roadside. Their disappearances were explained as fate. Abriba pretended not to see. Next came condemned men, already accused of crimes. Their deaths were called justice. But by the 5th life, fear had entered every home. Mothers pulled children indoors before sunset. Doors were locked early.
Men avoided walking alone at night. The town that once slept peacefully now listened for danger in every sound. The sixth and seventh lives shattered something in Abriba that could never be repaired. One of them was Chibuzo, the only son of Mazi Funaya Obi, a quiet palm wine tapper who lived on the edge of town. Chibuzo was 16, curious and bright. He spoke often of traveling beyond Abriba one day, of seeing the wider world. One evening, Chibuzo went to fetch water from the stream. He never returned. By morning, his body was found. No explanation was given, no justice offered. Ifunaya did not scream, he did not curse. He sat silently beside his son's body until the sun went down. Something inside him died that day, something deeper than grief. When the seventh life was taken, the rituals ended. The priests declared the gods satisfied. Ezenana was buried with full royal honors. Drums thundered, gunshots filled the air. The people danced because they were told to dance. But peace did not come. Instead, the land began to break. Crops failed without reason. Children fell ill suddenly. Traders were attacked on open roads. At night, people dreamt of faces calling their names. The names of the seven moved through the wind like whispers. Abriba had obeyed the gods, yet Abriba was dying. Ifunaya stopped greeting the shrine. He stopped attending rituals. When priests warned him, he replied calmly, "If the gods are just, they will explain themselves." Not long after, strangers arrived. They did not come with weapons, they came with books. The leader was Mr. Thomas Wilberforce, a thin white man with tired eyes. With him were African converts, Chukwuidio Kafo and Samuel Adeyemi, men who spoke the local tongue and understood the people. They spoke of one God, a God who did not demand human blood, a God who valued life. At first, Abriba laughed at them. The priests mocked them. The elders dismissed them. But the strangers did not leave. They treated the sick. They taught children to read. They listened more than they spoke. When sickness returned and the shrine failed to respond, the people remembered the strangers. Then Dibiaguokwo fell ill. No herbs worked. No sacrifices helped. Fear entered his household. In desperation, his family called the missionaries. They prayed. Aguokwo recovered. Before his death, months later, he gathered the elders and confessed publicly, his voice broken. The gods did not ask for 7 heads. Fear spoke through me. I feared losing power. Abriba wept. The shrines were abandoned slowly. The sacred grove grew quiet. A small church rose where fear once ruled. Years later, the bones of the 7 victims were gathered and buried properly. Their names were spoken. Their families were honored. Abriba survived, but it never forgot. Till today, elders say, when fear becomes faith, blood will always follow.